Hey guys, let's try a little something different today. I'm going to play through the first turn of the Siege of Warsaw scenario. As you can see here, I've got it set up. Caveat, I'm not necessarily going to really think about the best moves or anything or the best setups. Just kind of threw some counters down and we'll just play the way we have it. Uh, you can see over here I have some air units out. This is a standard game. These aren't normally in play. I'm just using this to track the air points. So both sides start with 4 air points at the beginning of the scenario. The scenario special rules also indicate that the scenario starts in the initiative combat segment of game turn 1, and the weather is always clear, so we can skip the weather phase, initiative and air naval phase, and the initiative movement segment and just go right into combat. So the first thing we're going to do is declare and resolve all combat, one combat at a time. So I don't have to go through and say, well, these guys are going to attack here, and these guys are going to attack here, and these guys are going to attack here, and then resolve them all. I could just say, these guys are going to attack here, resolve it, and then go to the next combat. So, excuse me, I think what I'm going to have happen here is the Northwest Belarusians here, along with the 6th of the 20th Guards, are going to attack the Fulgori, Italian Fulgori paratroop brigade here in Otwock. So if we go to our sequence of play, I've declared the attack, so I compute my initial odds. So one thing to note is that normally armored and mechanized might earn some advantage, but that's into a non-fortified, non-forested, non-city, flat or rough. Well, this is both forested and a city, so the mechanized and armored units aren't going to get any advantage there. So the initial odds, you can see I've got an attack value of 3, 6, 11, and I'm going to go against that defensive value of 3. So I'm going to come over to my combat results table, find my flat woods row, and put this on, what did I say, 11 to 3. So 3 to 1. So there's a remainder left over. So I'm going to go ahead and just mark that as a -1 because it wasn't a clean division on there. So the next thing I do is compute column shifts. So I'm going to go ahead and commit the Northwest Artillery. I'm going to use a little tile spacer to mark that that's one of the 2 possible combat uses for the artillery. I'll use a thicker one like this later to mark a second use. So that'll shift artillery, or I'm sorry, that'll shift odds column 1 to the right in favor of the non-allied player. I'm going to compare ERs. I'll use the Russian Armor 6 versus the Italian 6, so there's going to be no column shift there. And there's other column shifts that you can earn, but pretty much that's going to be it. Oh, actually I forgot. They're attacking into a city. So this is a city. This is urban. There's a little bit of confusion on that. Urban fills the entire hex. The city just happens to be in the hex. But that's going to push the odds column 2 to the left. So we're going to end up on the 9 column, or what would be 2 to 1 in the flat. Then both sides allocate attack helicopters. So you can see I've got a Belarusian attack helicopter here and a couple of U.S. attack helicopters here. Again, not sure if this is really wise. We're going to go ahead and allocate 1 helicopter each. And air points. And technically the attacker should do his allocations before the defender, but since I'm obviously playing solitaire, it doesn't really matter. I think I will put 1 air point in, so we'll just mark it with this. And so the allies feel they might have to respond in kind, so they'll put 1 of their air points in. And again, remember the air units aren't really part of the standard game. I'm just using them to mark the air points allocated. So then we go and resolve all the air defense fires. So we have to grab our standard game, standard and advanced game tables play aid. Here I can get the top of it here. So you see you got here your standard game air defense fire. I'll go ahead and roll against the non-allied first. So each mission, air points or helicopters being a mission, gets its own separate roll. So we take the helicopter, and by scenario rule, air superiority is contested, so all the rolls are going to be on this column. If the non-allied side, because I'm rolling against their units, if they had any kind of air superiority, I'd roll on this side. Notice it says the flying side. If the firing side, which in this case would be NATO or the Allies, had any kind of superiority, I'd roll on this side. But since it's contested, we're just going to roll here. You can see there's some modifiers. We're going to be adjacent to a hex containing a mechanized unit with the second ACR there. And they did not fly over an enemy target. And they are within 2 hexes, you can see right here, of an enemy airfield. So that's going to be another -2. So that's a -3 total on the die. So we roll that. I got a 5, -2. I'm sorry, -3 is a 2. So look over here. You can't really see the 2 column. It's an abort -1. So since that was against the helicopter, if we look over on the abort, combat support mission, no effect, but the -1 reduces the combat support value by 1. So if you take a look at the Mi-24, which has a support value of 1, it's basically ineffective. So he makes it in, but he's going to end up having no effect on the battle. So we'll just leave that on him and know that that doesn't come along. So now I'll roll against the Allied air point. Same thing. -3. That's a 1. So a 1 -3 is 0. I'm sorry, less than or equal to -1. So that takes 2. If there were more than 1 air point in there, it would subtract from that. I only committed 1 non-allied air point. We'll just put that off to the side. But it would have taken 2 away. But the asterisk means that it also takes an air point loss. I think in this scenario, though, you don't track air point losses. Yep, do not count air point losses, just update the allocation. So we don't even have to worry about it, it just doesn't show up. So none of the non-allied air is going to show up. So then we turn around and do the same thing for the allied helo here. Notice that it's going to get a -1 for being within adjacent to an armored unit. And obviously by scenario, the non-allied player had captured this installation, this airfield or airbase, so it's going to be a -3 for those guys as well. Roll a 9 with the 6 is nothing. So here you notice the Apaches have a 2 for their combat support value, so that's going to end up being a +2. So if you remember, we had the -1 from the remainder. That'll end up being a net +1. And then we'll roll for that air point, also at -3. I rolled a 3, which is a 0, so that's going to abort those, or not abort those guys. It's going to be a minus to their value of 1. And none of those air points get through. But the helos showed up, which is probably a good thing. So then we determine any other DRMs. Excuse me. So like I said, we're already at a net +1. We have 1 formation. These guys, if you can see these 6 of the 20th guys here, get that in there, are white. So they don't, I can't get that to focus. Well, you get it. They're white, so they don't count as a formation. But they are different nationalities. So if you look at the CRT for the die roll modifier and NWP, it's +1 for combined attacks by different nationalities. So that's going to be a +1 on that side. So that'll make it a +2. And then in addition, because this is a city, and the Fulgori are light infantry, that's what the black box around there signifies, they're going to earn another +1. Now, if the non-allied had some light infantry attacking, they would also earn a -1, in effect canceling that out. But they don't, so we're just going to go with that. So then we just roll the die. So we ended up on the 9 column at +3. It's not really a great attack. Like I said, I'm not really trying to play the best. I'm just trying to show you how it works. Roll the die. I rolled a 9. +3 is 12, so it's pretty much as bad as it can get. So the attacker takes 3 losses to the defender's 1. So the Italians will flip. The first loss from the attacker has to come off the guy that you used his ER for. And that's true for the defender too. So this armor will flip. And then the rules also say nobody can take a second loss until everybody's taken a first loss. So both of these Belarus mechanized brigades are also going to flip. So that was not really an auspicious start for the non-allied team. So we got another attack over here. We're going to go ahead and take the Belarus West and some of these 58th Army guys. We're going to attack the 173rd and the 2nd ACR, which are both reduced. So again, you just start over at the top, declare initial odds. So 3, 6, 9, 12 to 5. And this is flat woods. So we're going to be at 2 to 1 on the flatwoods, which is the 9 column where we ended up. Again, there's a remainder, so we'll go ahead and just mark the -1 so I don't forget. Let's see. Determine column shifts. So in this instance, we're again going to be efficiency 6 on efficiency 6, so that's going to be nothing. I'm going to have the west artillery here fire, so that'll at least shift it 1 to the right. There's no city here, so there's no 2 back to the left. And that's pretty much it for column shifts in this case. So we're going to go ahead and allocate air points. So the helicopter here has already done its 1 mission for the combat turn, so he's done. Or for this combat segment, so he's done. This 101st is also done. The 82nd could fly again, but I think I'll hold it because there's some more attacks coming in this combat segment. The non-allied player is going to go ahead and, let's see, we'll just commit. We'll put them up here. 2 air points. And the allied player kind of decides he needs to respond in turn. So we'll send in an air point here as well. Just put it up here next to these guys. So then we resolve that air defense fire. So it's the same as last time. In this case, both sides are going to have the same die roll modifiers. You've got mech here, you've got mech here. You're both within 2 of this airfield or this airbase, so it's going to end up being -3 again. So against the Russian, or I'm sorry, the non-allied, we'll roll a 6. -3 is a 3. That's nothing. So both of these air points get through. I'll just leave them there for now. Then we'll roll against the A10 here. That is also a 9. -3 is a 6, so that's going to be nothing. So both of those get through. Basically, it's going to net out as -2 + 1, so we're going to have a -1. But that'll push that DRM to -2 on the track. Get rid of these air units here. And so we determine any other die roll modifiers. Unfortunately, flatwoods doesn't give you light infantry because it has to be non-flatwoods. So you're not going to get anything there. We are going to have a +2 this time because there's 2 different formations. Notice these guys, none of these have a white interior NATO symbol, so these count as 2 different formations. They're 2 different nationalities. So we're going to end up with a +2. So that'll wipe out the -2, bring it back down to 0, and we'll just go ahead with that attack. So it's a 6 on the 10 column or 3 to 1 on the flat woods. If I cross-reference that, I've got a 1-1R. So again, this was the lead unit, so he's got to take the loss. Now, I can take that loss on either the 173rd or the 2nd ACR. They're both 6s, so it doesn't really matter which one I chose. 2nd ACR has a better defensive value. The 173rd gets a -1 or +1 attack, defending or attacking because he's light infantry. So it's an interesting decision. I think I'm going to go ahead and lose the ACR only because I want that light infantry bonus there. These guys up here are not going to attack the 82nd. That would be a 6 on 4. It's not really a great attack. I don't have a lot to support it with, so we're just going to skip to the other side here. We have these guys are just kind of holding the river line to make sure nobody comes out. This is really the main thrust, the main attack. So these 2 stacks are going to attack this 1 allied stack here. So fortunately, I've got the 9th Recon, so the armor and the mechanized don't get any bonus because they're not facing they're not facing just infantry. So we're going to end up with initial odds of 10, 13, and 6. So 19 on 6, which if I'm right is 3 to 1 with a little bit of a remainder left over. And just going down the sequence of play here, I'm going to determine some column shifts. I could use the 101st to get that extra column shift. I think I'm okay. I'm going to use the Recon versus the mechanized infantry here. Even though they're all 6s here, I want to declare it because they're different kinds of units. So I want to make sure I get the right ones. Any other column shifts? I'm going to go ahead and allocate this rocket artillery and this regular artillery here. So they're going to fire. That's going to shift it 2 to the right. So we're going to end up on the 5 to 1 or the 12 column. And then we're going to allocate some air. So the attacker He's only got 1 air point left. He's going to hold on to that, but he will allocate this Mi-28 down here. The defender, he's going to go ahead and allocate this Apache, and he's going to throw in an air point. Might as well send the poles in. So you count up the modifiers again. I think they're... Yep, so there's a captured air base here. It's within 2. There's mechanized and or armor. So again, it's going to be -3 all around. So we'll roll against the Apache first. The 6 becomes a 3, which is nothing. So that Apache is going to come in and bring his 2. We'll roll against that Polish airpoint. The 7 -3 is a 4. That also comes in, so that's a net -3. And then we've got the Mi-28s. And I roll a 1. So that asterisk, not only is that going to be a -2 to the combat value, but that asterisk is going to flip this Mi-28, which fortunately has a damaged or reduced side. So the non-allied player is not going to get anything. The allied player is going to get a +3. So when you put that with the -1, we're going to end up with a net +2 right now. And then we go for anything else. So these guys, you notice, are all the same formation and nationality, and these tanks are all white, so they don't count as a second formation, so there's going to be no modifiers there. So it's pretty much going to be, and there's no modifier for defending, that's only for attacking, and that multinational doesn't matter for NATO units anyway. But there's not going to be any modification there, so we're going to end up on the 12 column at +2. Roll 1, that becomes a 3, and that's 2 losses for the defender. So the first loss has to come off the guy I chose. And then, like I said before, everybody else in the hex has to take a loss before anybody else can take a second one. So we're going to flip the 101st as well. Now there was not a retreat result, which the allied player is probably pretty happy about. Because otherwise those guys would be right on the outskirts of Warsaw with a couple combat segments to go. The non-allied player in this scenario has initiative, so we're going to play through the full the full sequence of play. So the next step is elite reaction segment. So in non-initiative player, in this case that's the allies, any 6, 7, or 8 efficiency unit not in an enemy's EOC can move. Pretty much I screwed myself there because everybody's in a ZOC. You have to have 2 stacking points to project a ZOC. So all of these hexes are going to project ZOCs, all these guys. ZOCs do not project across rivers or into urban terrain, but here it doesn't really matter. Basically that means none of these guys are going to be able to move in the elite reaction segment. So then we skip to move to the exploitation segment. So the non-allied player, anybody again not in an enemy ZOC, can move. So technically this 173rd guy and this Fulgore, neither one of them are projecting ZOCs. Neither is the 82nd. So all of these non-allied units could move in this segment, and I think I will. I'm going to go ahead and these guys are going to move in here. Now this is an allied controlled city, so as soon as those guys move in there, I've got to pull a clearing marker and without looking at it plop that right on there. So they're going to be stuck in there. They could have bypassed. In fact, I probably should have. Yeah, let's do that. So in the rules, you can look up bypass. I can bypass this city and basically avoid having to put a clearing marker on there. And by that, I can just kind of walk in here. So it just costs the normal cost of terrain. So 1, 2, and these guys are into Warsaw. And again, obviously, like I said, I wasn't really paying much attention when I set up. So they'll move in there. These guys, we're just going to swing all everybody around. Put another clearing marker on these guys. And in the spirit of reinforcing success, well, actually, these guys will just all move up 1. And we'll do that. So over here on this side, all these guys are in a zone of control except the guy across the river. There isn't really much for him to do, so he'll just sit. So next step is exploitation combat. So the bad thing about exploitation combat is you're automatically going to be 2 column shifts to the left. But we're going to go ahead and do it because we want to pound we only have 2 turns to capture Warsaw, so we're going to do that. In this case, I'm going to have all 3 hexes here, attack the 173rd. Whoops. So you follow the same sequence of play. So the initial odds, we're going to have 6, 7, 8, 13 on 2, which is going to be 6 to 1 in the flat. Column shifts. Now I have units from both the west and the northwest attacking, but I'm already, and even though I'm already on the max column, I'm going to want to go ahead and declare that these guys are firing again, because I know I'm going to end up with a 2 shift left for exploitation combat. So these 2 artillery will cancel that 2 shift left, so I'm not going to worry about that. ER, 173rd flipped as a 6. I have no more 6s. I don't really want to lose those tanks, so we'll use these 5th guys, or these 11 West guys here. So that's going to end up shipping us 1 left anyway because of the difference in ER 6 to 5. There's not going to be any other modifiers there. Both sides can support, declare support again. I don't think I'm going to need any air support on this attack. It's a pretty stout one. But the Allies are going to go ahead and we'll mark their helicopters flying again. See if we can't make that a little bit better. Now they're not going to commit their last air point, so we roll. It's a 0, which means it's going to take away -2 of that Apache's 2, so nothing's going to get through. And that's going to be an asterisk, which flips this guy. All right, so we had a remainder in the odds. We're going to be a -1 from that. Light infantry's not going to get anything in the light woods. Here I do have 2 different, whoops, turn that back over. We have 2 different formations. We got the northwest and the west. So that's going to be a +1. It's 1 in addition. And then we're going to have +1 for this nationality. So we're going to end up with a +2, which is going to be a net +1 on this die roll. I'm sorry, and attacking from 3 hexes. So that'll push us back down to 0. Roll the die. We got a 3. This is a 3 flat on the 12 column. That's a 2 loss on the Allies. That guy's gone. Sorry about the dog earlier, but you know, that's how it goes. And then, so this is a must advance game. So these guys cleared the hex. Somebody must advance. And in this case, we will, you know what, I think I'm going to push these guys in and leave the armor out for now. Maybe they'll get somewhere else to go. And actually, if you look at the CRT, notice after flat or flat woods, units retreating from this terrain retreat 2 hexes. I can't advance after combat 2 hexes because there's no road. If there had been a road, if this had been, well, that's a city, but if there had been a road through here, I could have right into the urban terrain. Now over here, we're going to do that same thing here. So we've got 5, 10, 13, still 19. They're reduced now though, so 19 to 3. Again, we're going to end up on the max column. We're going to commit both of these artillery, which will offset the exploitation. And once again, I don't think I'm going to commit any air. ER 6 to 6, or I can use the 5. I think in this case I might as well use the 6 because I don't think they're going to survive anyway, so we'll use the 6 here. And neither side's going to declare any air, so we just skip right to the die roll. Some die roll modifiers. So -1 from the odds calculation. Remember, it was 19 to 3, so left an odds calculation. But there's not going to be any DRMs from formations because there's only 1 formation. So actually, it's just a -1. So that's an 8. Becomes a 7 on the max column. That's a 1 loss. So unfortunately, 101st takes it, but the 9th Recon, Polish 9th Recon actually holds the hex, which is pretty good. Reaction movement segment. Now the non-initiative player can move. In this case, things are not really looking good, so he's going to pull back into the city. Stacking is 4, so these guys are 1, 2, 3, 4. And these guys might just get hung out. Well, they can attack. I'll have them attack. We'll all attack in there. Kind of get the truth. We can't get that urban hex back. So this is the reaction combat segment. Every hex is going to attack. We're going to try to kick these guys out of here. So initial odds I've got 4, 5, 8, 9, 12, 13 on 8. So not even 2 to 1, maybe 1.5, we'll call it that. In the urban terrain, so if you find on the combat results table, you go all the way down to the bottom of the terrain types, you see urban. Remember, urban is a full hex terrain. We'll put that on the 1.5. There was a remainder though, so we'll go with -1. So column shifts, he's got 6s. I do have the 82nd, so I think we're going to go ahead and use them as the lead unit, so that'll push us 1 to the right. I don't have any artillery or anything to commit, so I'm not going to get anything there. So we can go straight to air. I can commit up to 2 helicopters, but I only have 1 left, so we'll go ahead and commit the 82nds. Alright, let's leave these guys off to the side. We'll commit their air point. Obviously, the non-allied player wants to hold this. They'll commit theirs, and he'll commit this one last helicopter. And it doesn't matter that these are Russian and these are Belarus. That's not an issue unless you're playing with some optional rules. So we'll roll against the Belarus helicopter. That's a 0. That's going to be a step loss. They don't have a step loss on the backside, so he's dead. We'll roll against the non-allied air point. 4 minus, let's see, yep, 3, because there's some armor in here somewhere, mechanized. These guys are flipped. There's some armor here, and we still own this airfield, so it's going to be a 1, which is going to be a -1, which means that air point is not going to play a part in this. So then we roll on the other side. We're within 2 of this air base, so that's going to be a -2, and then there's some mechanized in here, so it's going to end up being a -3 on that Apache. A 2 -3, so he's not going to be bringing anything, and he's also going to flip. It's a pretty deadly air environment here. And on that air point, a 4. -3 is going to end up being a 1, so it's going to be a -1, so that air point's not going to provide anything either. So basically, nobody's air is going to show up. It's going to be on the 5 column right now. It's -1, so we'll figure out some die roll modifiers. This is urban terrain, so there's light infantry attacking. It doesn't matter. It's not 1 per. It's just 1. So that'll be a -1. So I'll go ahead and mark that. I'm attacking from 3 hexes, so that'll be another -1. Combined attacks by formations does not apply to NATO. So just the fact that these guys are all different formations makes no difference because they're NATO units. And then combined attacks by different nationalities does count for NATO. And because these are not just US, UK, or Canadian, and by errata Danish, there is a +1 per extra nationality. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 nationalities, so it's going to be a net +3, which wipes out that -3, and we're down to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and roll. That's an 8. The attackers take 2 losses. Remember, I used the 82nd, so he has to take the first loss. And, like I said before, nobody can take a second loss until everybody has taken a first loss, so that means the 6th Airborne takes 1. And the non-allied is going to hold on to that hex, for now anyway. So because it's an initiative turn, we just move right on to the basic movement and combat. I'm not really going to redo those because we know how that works. I'm just going to skip to the reorganization phase. So in that, you would rotate. Here I use markers instead of, or tile spacers instead of rotating, but you would, all these guys would come back, and which means you could use them again in the following turn. Remove air points. So if I hadn't used all my air points, all those get off. It's not a keep and save them up. It gets reset every time. I didn't have air mobile points to use, so I don't reset my air mobile point markers. So now we conduct clearing operations. So I'm going to turn this over. And it's a 4, which is pretty good. And we're going to pull out the standard advanced game tables, sequence of play again. And we're going to look right here at clearing operations. So we've got to find the type of terrain it is. It's urban. So minimum safe stacking points. It's got to have at least 4 if he wants to avoid taking losses. And it also becomes a detrimental die roll modifier if he doesn't have at least 4. But he does. He's got 4 stacking points in there, so he's okay there. He's not in Lithuania or Estonia. It's not a flag land area. There are no additional installations in the hex. It's not from an amphibious assault. They didn't pair drop or air mobile movement. If it includes leg plus armor or mechanized infantry, he gets a +1. But in this case, these guys are motorized infantry. They're not mechanized infantry. I don't know if you can see that. But so you do get a difference of the ER and the clearing number. So he's going to get a +2 because his ER is 2 greater than the 4. And then, like I said, the last one is if there's a difference between stacking points and minimum safe. It's never a good thing. It's only always a bad thing if you don't have enough. So he's going to end up being a +2 on that die roll. I roll a 9. This is a little bit of trivia for you. The only roll in the game where rolling high is good. You need to equal or exceed this number. I got a 9 + 2 is 11. This is cleared. Put a Russian control marker in here. And they are 1/3 of the way to controlling Warsaw. So you would repeat that here. They're a 5. Notice here, though, I can pick. So it's a city. I only need 3 stacking points, so I'm over. But just because I'm over, I'm not going to get a +1 for that. It just means I can't get a minus. I'm going to use my 6 versus the 5, so I'll be a +1 for that. And I do have mechanized infantry, so I'll be a +1 for that. So I'll be a net +2. However, I rolled a 2, which is only a 4. These guys are stuck under that clearing marker, and they'll have to roll. They'll have to wait for an entire turn to roll again. And then you would go through reinforcements and replacements and victory determination. I'm not going to bother you with that. That's pretty much the anatomy of the turn and going through some combats. I hope this really helps you guys. Thanks.